So we saw the Power Rangers movie today, Friday, March 24th, which
is the day.
This will be going up on YouTube later. I know that. That's just kind of how we roll here. But yeah, we saw it, and this will be as spoiler free as we can keep it. We're not going to give away any of the plot points. We're not going to talk about anything that you either haven't heard about in the media or you haven't seen in a trailer. So we're not going to do like we did with Walking Dead and just talk about it, and give you a plot summary. That being said, Nathan, let's start with you.
Why me?
Because okay, and let me give some background.
I'm the audience that the movie is trying to appeal to.
I think so. Kind of
part of it that people that don't know about it.
There's different demographics. Mm-hmm. I would say in one part. And by the way, we saw kids there. We saw young kids there.
And there were also adults. Lots of adults.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't say
I'm an adult.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There were lots of adults, but like there were like little kids, like 5-year-olds, and I'm like 5-year-olds.
And there are some elements of this film that are not appropriate for children. It's not a very dark movie.
Yeah.
But this is definitely, it definitely has more mature themes, and there's even like I remember seeing a couple of reviews saying that there were some like with Rita Repulsa that they did some horror.
There were some creepy.
There are some creepy things with Rita Repulsa.
Like some of the first things with her. Ooh.
Yeah, if you take a kid who's like
I would have been scared. I would have been really scared of that as like a 6-year-old. I would have been like,
yeah, do not take your if they're under 10, don't take them. That would be my recommendation. With this movie, and to kind of set the table here, I'm old enough to I was a fan when I was a kid. I started off watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers when I was 7, and I watched all the way up through I think half of Power Rangers in Space, and I was about 13, 14 when that came out. In space. And it's kind of gone on ever since. Nathan, of course, you're much younger than me, so you really haven't ever gotten into Power Rangers. I think Ninja Turtles is more your thing.
Oh yeah, dude.
And Kirby and Sonic X and that kind of thing. That's what you grew
Transformers,
up on.
What was that called? We were talking about this a while ago, like
Transformers Armada.
I think that's what it was. I think so. But yeah. As a kid, I remember this specific instance. Actually, it's kind of funny. Like when we've been talking about this is what I always go back to with one of my earliest memories of Power Rangers. I was probably about 7 or 8 or 9. It's not that important. But it was my cousin's wedding, and we were all staying. It was a beach wedding, and we were all staying at this big beach house. And so there were children around my age that were staying at the house as well. They were part of the family that I'd never met before because they were part of like the like not related to me by blood,
right?
But they were still part of the wedding, so they were there. There was like this basement area of the beach house where like most of the kids hung out, and I remember going down there one day, and like there was like a group of like kids. They were like watching Power Rangers. They acted like it was like so awesome and stuff. And I just remember like standing there and just looking at it and like how like the enemies looked like they were made out of foam, and like the like acting being really weird, and like the motions like and I was just
super exaggerated,
and I was just like, I'm gonna go upstairs. and I was like a little kid, and like I recognized that it was really silly. Like maybe I was like 9 though, right? I mean that shouldn't be too old. Like I don't know. Maybe I was just way smarter than you.
You're just too cool for them, man. You're just too cool.
I'm not trying to sound like really pretentious, but like it's just, I just wasn't into it. So I did make fun of it a little bit as a kid too. I remember I probably did tease them. I don't know, but yeah. So I've never been into it. But when the movie got announced, I was like, I got kind of interested. Like I'm not saying like I'm like a bandwagon who's like Power Rangers is a new thing. Like yeah, I'm a fan. Like I'm not trying to like pretend or anything, but like I got kind of interested. I was like, okay, is that gonna like whenever someone does something that's supposed to represent something that was like out of nostalgia, I'm always kind of interested to like whether I know the original or not. I'm always interested. Like I've been asking you a ton of questions about the original version. It's always interesting to look at the parallels and the differences between them.
Well, it's kind of like when when they started rebooting Star Trek with the recent string of movies. Like I wanted to see the first one, even though I didn't grow up watching Star Trek. Like that was way before my time, and I'd only seen like maybe a Star Trek movie here or there, and it never really like grabbed me or interested me. But I was like, oh, the reboot. This is a cool place to start off, and this is what this movie is. It really is just a reboot of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So yeah, that being said, what did you think of it?
Let's see. So yeah, I got interested in it, and so I've been kind of following the production of it for a while. So yeah,
seeing how it lines up with like the Ninja Turtles reboot that started a few years ago. You know how it compares.
It was better. It was. I like Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
but it was better than both the Ninja Turtle movies, probably. That makes me sad. I'm kind of sad to say that, but because I like Ninja Turtles so much more as a franchise as a whole, but movies by themselves, no, it doesn't compare. But so yeah, I went into it with an open mind. I know a lot of people probably see the trailers and stuff and they're like, that looks, I can't take that seriously or whatever. But I've always been kind of like, okay, that could be cool. So I liked it. I thought I wasn't expecting a lot from it. I also wasn't expecting like, a little. I was just kind of like, all right, let's see how it is. And I came out, I enjoyed it throughout the whole thing. And I came out being
was it better than you thought it was going to be?
I'm not really sure because it's not like I.
You had no expectations going in.
I didn't. I don't know. Like I guess it was probably better. It was like I've always kind of felt like it could be really cool, and I was like, ooh, that does look like. So I really don't know that it was. It was just kind of like it just was. Kind of was what I thought it would be, honestly.
Okay, so it met your expectations.
Yeah, and so I was like, and I didn't think it would be bad. I thought it would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
and so I came out like, yeah, that was a pretty cool movie.
Would you say that the trailers did a good job of like portraying like this is the kind of movie you're going to see?
I think so.
I think so too.
Have people been saying otherwise?
No, people have just been saying weird things I don't agree with. Like I've heard one people say like, "Oh, I don't know what kind of movie they wanted to make." There was either like 2 different kinds of movies or 3 different kinds of movies, and
I don't think that's.
I didn't get
problem.
that.
I thought it all meshed pretty well.
I think so too.
But yeah, it was very fun. It was a fun movie. There was some kind of like you were saying, like kind of like darker themes, like a little bit, but for the most part, it was pretty like lighthearted, and there were some pretty like no spoilers, but there were some pretty like awesome moments where you're just like. But like you wait for a long time, and you're just like, yes.
Yeah. I mean, we can kind of. I wouldn't. I think what you're referring to is the fact that the Rangers really only have like one fight outside of their Zords for a few minutes.
Yeah,
and it's not nearly long enough.
I've heard some people saying this in another review, like. How the action sequences where they were in their suits weren't that great, and I can kind of agree with that. It did feel like
I want more.
It did, yeah, exactly, but like also kind of cooler, It did kind of just feel like a big mesh of CGI, with the putties and the Rangers.
I mean, yeah, when they were doing that, come on, they had to do that with CGI.
But like, make it more of a detailed fight rather than just an overall. They're fighting like just a couple little sequences,
right? But that's where it cool. Felt like the show, just kind of cutting to them doing different things and like maybe having like I think at one point Billy does like this really cool move where he does like a back handspring and then like he goes like this and like hits like 2 of them at once, and like they did the choreography was somewhere between. Okay, that's really cool, but still honoring like how the show used to do things. Now, you're not going to see sparks flying out of their costumes like you did in the original show or anything like that.
But yeah, we definitely couldn't have used more of that, though, I think.
Yeah, like I was as soon as they went into the Zords, I was like, okay, the Zords are my favorite thing about Power Rangers. But as soon as I got into the Zords, I was like, oh man, that's it.
Yeah,
I could have used a lot more of that.
Now, in the original show, maybe I think it might be the same way in the movie. It might be this way in the movie, but I couldn't quite tell. can they morph whenever they want to, or do they have to be at that like? At the thing?
They can transform anytime.
But do they all have to do it at the same time?
They don't.
Okay, I think it's the same way in the movie because there's like the thing at first when they're not around it. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool movie.
Yeah. So my take on it is
the nostalgic take.
I absolutely love. Yeah, if you grew up watching any part of the Power Rangers, even if it was the more recent ones and you never like saw the original, there's still gonna be something in this movie that you're gonna love. Mm-hmm. I've heard other people that really are into Power Rangers. They said that like this movie borrowed things from like everything, even at the very beginning. Like, by the way, this movie opened with an amazing scene that rewrites the lore.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah,
between Zordon and Rita and their feud. It's really like if you're especially if you're a longtime fan, like it's different. It changes things from how the old story was. Zordon and Rita, they were always like fighting over planets, and then they were fighting over Earth, and they decided to like flip coins to see who would get Earth, and Zordon used the power coins to win the coin flipping, and as a result, like Rita like banished him to another dimension, and she was banished to the moon. They changed that. There's some things from that they still borrow, but they changed that, and they set it up really well in the very first scene of this movie. So don't miss that scene because it's done really well. So I liked how they did that. I liked Bryan Cranston as Zordon. He was as good as I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be. Honestly, I didn't think his role would be so serious. Zordon is. He kind of. I don't want to give too much away, but they change up his character a little bit, and they make him a more complex character than simply being. I'm a wizard who I'm just completely benevolent and completely good, and I have no selfish ambitions of my own. I'm just gonna say that's not the case here in the movie. So he was great. I loved what they did with Zordon. Alpha 5. I loved the fact that they had, I think his name is Bill Hader, do his voice. Perfect match for Alpha 5, and his attitude was really cool too. Like Alpha 5 in the original series was like C-3PO, but even more annoying and more worrisome. He's not like that in this.
C-3PO on steroids.
He's still now. Alpha 5 still has the I moments, but there's only a couple of them, and they're not like extended or anything like that.
They're not really obnoxious.
Exactly. I don't like his design. I think that might have been one of the.
You don't like it because it's so different from the original, or just?
Well, it's kind of the same as the original. I think they were trying to, because he was mostly red, but it just, his head to me looked like a toilet seat. Like I couldn't get over.
The head was a lot different from the original.
He didn't have two separate eyes.
I liked how he had like the orb thing in the middle though. It looked like a brain.
Right. I don't know. Like I would have liked him to. I guess honestly, like if they completely changed his design from the original, because I think they brought some aspects back from the original. I wouldn't have minded it so much. I just didn't like his design in this.
Mostly the head.
Because
I like that they made him less humanoid in his body.
Yeah, and he's got like these really like stretchy arms and stuff like that. But the character itself was well written. It's just the visual of that character. The Power Rangers, the actors, I think they were all well done. The main characters that they focus on in the movie are Jason, Kimberly, and Billy. Zach and Trini are a little bit underdeveloped by my standards. Like you're going to see their family life, but just not nearly as much as the other three Rangers. So if you're a Zach or Trini fan, and by the way, Zach is very different in this. He's not like a cool guy who just does dance moves. Like, he's like a thrill seeker. He doesn't really go to school. Trini has family issues, and let's talk about what the controversy was that came out in the news a couple days ago. Apparently, everyone was talking about how, like, oh, Power Rangers, they're breaking the mold of superhero movies, and they're going to have their first lesbian or LGBT character with Trini. It's not really like that. I would say it's maybe hinted at. I would say the fact that Zach is attracted to her, like, it's kind of like, it's more ambiguous. It's not like in your face, like, oh, she's LGBT, or oh, she's, she's this. Like, it's implied, but at the same time, it's really left like open ended, and it's kind of they all have their different problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, Jason, you know from the trailers that, like, he messed up his truck, and like everyone in the town hates him. Kimberly's like in trouble with like her old friends. Billy's a nerd and gets picked on.
Worst problem in the world,
right? And I like the fact that with his character they basically gave him Asperger's. Like, there's no nicer way to say that. They gave him Asperger's, but it fits his character. Like, he's very OCD and everything like that.
Zach's mother is sick.
Yeah. So they all have their problems, and it's just kind of like, I guess they're trying to do a modern take on it, but like, even though the implication there that, like, that she could be lesbian, like, I hope that they don't go with that in later in sequels. Like this can we not do this? Like, does every movie that I want to go see have to have this element in it? And I'm glad that they didn't go, that they made it sound like it was going to be much worse than it actually was.
Yeah,
in the media. So
that's what they do. Over there in the media.
When they do finally morph, and that's kind of like we said earlier, it's not really until the final act when they morph. When they do morph, I thought it was done really well. The point when they morph is really cool, the way that they do it. The Zords are okay. And a lot of people are complaining about Goldar and how Goldar is very different than what he was. And I've also heard complaints that Rita, done by Elizabeth Banks, was like over the top cheesy. No, she fits in just fine with the rest of the film. Goldar is, he doesn't really have a voice. He is a speechless monster, but I mean, he's still like her right-hand man, like he was in the show. And then, of course, we have
like a monkey dude in the show, like with wings.
He looks like a monkey wearing a gold suit of armor with wings. He kind of looks like
So he escaped from Oz.
Yeah, there's a lot of like Wizard of Oz references.
You got the Wizard of Oz himself, and you got the witches flying
as Zordon, right? But and the way that they did the Zords, which is going to be, if you were hoping for like a big Zord battle, you get it in this. Like, there is like, think not all the crazy destruction of Transformers, but it is pretty high stake. It is pretty high stakes, and you do see the people of Angel Grove like in peril when this happens. Like, it's not just well, let's just kill the bad guy and who cares who's collateral damage. No, they actually have to like, fight around people. They try not to cause damage. But I feel like that the movie really, like, the way that the climax was done was done very, very well. There is also a mid-credit scene, which I of course will not spoil. There's no post-credit scene, so if you're gonna go see it,
don't wait around.
Don't sit around. Don't sit around waiting for it. Lots of little Easter eggs, lots of references to other things in the series.
Rangers!
That shows up at a very cool point. So
also, after you see this movie, you're gonna be really hungry for some Krispy Kreme donuts. That's all I gotta say.
There is some product placement.
You could say that life itself comes from Krispy Kreme.
If
donuts.
that drives you
if
crazy,
product placement in movies just triggers you, then don't see this.
then don't see the movie, because it's the only product placement used, but it's used quite prominently. I loved the movie. I don't think they could have. I could have done without a few things in the movie, especially like there's a little bit of crude humor in it, especially at the very beginning, that doesn't show up anywhere else in the movie.
It did feel very out of place.
It did. It really did. So
it's kind of like when you see stuff like that in movies, it's like you just think about that one writer in the room who's like, hey, guys, I got this really good idea
to really shock people.
And then he gets that one joke written in there, and then they fire him because he's stupid. But yet somehow it still makes it in.
Yeah. So yeah, I loved it. If I were to give it out of a 10 scale, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Whoa.
I loved it.
Why not 1? Because of Alpha 5.
No, it was just the whole the lesbian thing and the crude humor at the beginning. I'm just like, you know what, guys, you fell short. You have to include stuff that you don't need in your movie that's based on a kids show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, awesome movie. Go see it.
Yeah.